Let's further discuss this now with Anne Moutet, who joins us live from Paris. She's a columnist at the Telegraph newspaper. It's a pleasure to have you on the News Hour today. Thank you for being with us. Now, I want to get your assessment on from how the riots started till this very moment, where much of the violence has been put behind us, and now we're hearing of this draft emergency law being presented.
Well, the riots came as a shock and a surprise for many reasons, including the fact that many of the rioters were very, very young men, mostly, and boys. I mean, as young as 12, 13. And that sort of, terrified people, first of all, is what do you do against sort of 12-year-olds? You're not going to treat them like combatants, but also because there was this sort of completely nihilistic violence. I had stories of people who got trapped into either their homes or some public buildings, and they were terrified because these crowds of well-organized, very young men were essentially trying to sort of set fire to the buildings, and it didn't succeed. When there were people inside, it's just a piece of incredible luck. So the country, all of the country, is sort of shocked. You've got many assistants in city halls. You've got a mayor whose house was rammed and whose wife and child were wounded. It's never existed like that, and it was not like protest because there were no slogans. There was no sort of organization of a political nature. But the looting was very well organized. You had young men who were caught on security cameras, and you saw them all dressed in the same way, with balaclavas and the same protective equipment so that they could not be recognized. Some of them had come with circular saws so that they could cut off the poles on which you had the security cameras, the CCTV cameras. And then they went into stores and they methodically looted. And that's something that France has never seen. We've seen violent political demonstrations. We've never seen this.
What do you think is the cause of this, though? Because there is a fine line between rioters who are looting and causing violence along the streets and the protesters. And it's unfortunate to see that happen because that often overshadows the message the protesters are trying to give. We did hear from Nahil's grandmother calling out to the rioters to stop everything that they've been doing on the streets of France.
Yes, I don't think that young Niall's family had any expectation that things would turn like that. There have been instances, like in 2005, when two young men who feared the police hid into an electrical post, a transformer, and died electrocuted. And there were several days of riots in France, but the riots were perfectly understandable. There was anger that there should be so much disconnect between part of the young people of France and the police, and they were horrified that it led to that drama. But there was not this kind of indiscriminate looting, and that is entirely new. We saw a little bit of that looting in an entirely different context, and certainly not young people like that, at the time of the yellow vests. Not at the beginning, but in the end, when people came opportunistically, probably were not the initial people who started a few weeks before and just helped themselves. And I have spoken to many people, including people in the same areas as the victims, Muslim shopkeepers whose shops were destroyed, whose shops were looted, whose cars were touched, and who are just as angry as anybody else, because the first victims of those riots are the locals, and all the buildings that had been brought into those areas to try and improve a situation that France knows is not good, like community centers, like sports centers, like post offices, when normally a post office not having enough business would not be there. All those things have been torched.
All right, Anne Moutet, thank you so much for being with us here on the News Hour and sharing that analysis with us.
Thank you.